Welcome back to the Real Bio Protocol, cold open, and nobody told them the depression wouldn't go away when they stopped taking the pill. Right now, millions of young men are swallowing a tiny tablet every single day because they're terrified of losing their hair. And that tablet, it's rewiring their brains. We're not talking about temporary side effects that disappear when you quit. We're talking about men who stopped taking finasteride 3 years ago and still can't feel pleasure, still can't think clearly, still can't perform in the bedroom. The pharmaceutical industry calls this rare, the FDA calls it under review, but the peer-reviewed research, it calls it a neurosteroid catastrophe that alters brain chemistry at a fundamental level. And here's what should make your blood boil. The mechanism was documented in scientific literature since 2012. They knew. The enzyme this drug blocks doesn't just live in your scalp, it lives in your brain, your spine, your nervous system. And when you shut it down, you're not just saving hair follicles, you're disrupting the very chemicals that regulate mood, cognition, and sexual function. This is the 5-alpha reductase trap. And once you understand what it's doing to an entire generation, you'll never look at that little pill the same way again. ACT1 the problem. Here's what mainstream medicine tells young men worried about hair loss. Finasteride is safe and effective. The side effects are rare, maybe 2 to 3% experience anything and they go away when you stop. Dermatologists prescribe it like candy. Telehealth companies ship it to your door in discreet packaging with zero blood work, zero baseline hormone panels, zero psychological screening. Just check a few boxes online, and boom, you're on a drug that fundamentally alters your endocrine system. And why wouldn't young men take it? We live in a world where appearance matters, where dating apps filter by photos, where a full head of hair can feel like the difference between confidence and invisibility. These aren't vain men. These are men trying to preserve something that society tells them matters. So they trust their doctors. They trust the FDA approval. They trust the millions of prescriptions written every year. How dangerous could it really be? But here's what those telehealth questionnaires don't mention. Here's what your dermatologist probably doesn't know or doesn't want to tell you. Post-finasteride syndrome is real. It's recognized by the National Institutes of Health. It has its own foundation, its own researchers, its own growing body of evidence. And for the men who develop it, life becomes unrecognizable. We're talking about depression that doesn't respond to SSRIs, anxiety that appears out of nowhere, cognitive fog so thick they can't remember conversations from an hour ago, emotional blunting where they literally cannot feel joy, sadness, or connection. And yes, sexual dysfunction so severe that some men describe it as chemical castration. The medical establishment's response, it's probably psychological. You're anxious about side effects, so you're manifesting them. There's no biological mechanism, except there is. There absolutely is, and they've known about it for over a decade. ACT2, The Hidden Truth. In 2012, a groundbreaking study was published that should have changed everything. Researchers discovered that 5-alpha reductase, the enzyme finasteride blocks, isn't just responsible for converting testosterone to DHT in your hair follicles. It's responsible for producing neurosteroids in your brain. Let that sink in. The same enzyme you're blocking to save your hair is the enzyme your brain needs to produce allopregnanolone, one of the most powerful modulators of the GABA receptor ever discovered. Allopregnanolone is nature's anti-anxiety compound. It's what your brain produces to calm neural activity, regulate mood, and maintain emotional equilibrium. When you take finasteride, you don't just lower DHT, you crash allopregnanolone levels in your cerebrospinal fluid. Studies using spinal taps have confirmed this. Men on finasteride showed dramatically reduced neurosteroid levels in their central nervous system. And here's where it gets terrifying. In some men, these pathways don't recover when they stop the drug. The receptor sensitivity changes. The enzyme expression alters. The system that was supposed to bounce back doesn't. A 2019 study in the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry found persistent epigenetic changes in men with post-finasteride syndrome. Their androgen receptors were being expressed differently, not damaged, reprogrammed. A Baylor College of Medicine study found that PFS patients showed widespread alterations in gene expression in penile tissue. Changes consistent with persistent biological dysfunction, not psychological suggestion. This isn't in their heads, it's in their genes, it's in their cerebrospinal fluid, it's in their receptor expression patterns. The science is clear, but somehow the men suffering are still being gaslit by the medical system that created this problem. ACT3, the mechanism. Let's break down exactly what finasteride does at a biological level. Because this is crucial, 5-alpha reductase is an enzyme that exists in 3 known forms, type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 2 is the primary target of finasteride. And yes, it's abundant in hair follicles where it converts testosterone to DHT. That's why blocking it prevents hair loss. But here's what the marketing materials don't emphasize. Type 1 and type 2 5-alpha reductase are also present throughout the central nervous system, in your brain, in your spinal cord, in the peripheral nerves that control sexual function. These enzymes aren't just converting testosterone to DHT up there. They're converting progesterone into allopregnanolone and deoxycorticosterone into THDOC, both critical neurosteroids that modulate GABA-A receptors. GABA is your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. When GABA-A receptors are properly modulated by neurosteroids, you feel calm, clear, emotionally regulated. When those neurosteroids disappear, anxiety spikes, depression deepens, sleep fractures, cognitive function deteriorates. But there's another layer. DHT itself isn't just a hair loss hormone. It's a critical androgen for male neurological and sexual function. DHT has higher binding affinity to androgen receptors than testosterone. In the brain, it influences motivation, drive, and emotional processing. In sexual tissue, it maintains sensitivity and function. When you crush DHT systemically, which finasteride does, you're not making a targeted intervention. You're creating androgen deficiency in tissues that depend on DHT for normal function. Now combine both mechanisms, depleted neurosteroids and depleted DHT, happening simultaneously throughout the brain and body. The men experiencing persistent symptoms aren't being dramatic. They're experiencing a biochemical state that antidepressants weren't designed to fix, because the problem isn't serotonin, it's neurosteroids, it's androgens, it's an entirely different axis of brain chemistry, a CT4 real-world application. So what do you actually do with this information? First, if you're considering finasteride, demand a full informed consent conversation, not the 2-minute telehealth checkbox. A real conversation about neurosteroid depletion, persistent symptom risks, and the lack of reliable predictors for who will develop problems. Second, if you're currently on finasteride and experiencing any mood changes, cognitive fog, or sexual sides, do not assume they'll resolve on their own. Get baseline blood work. Document symptoms. Consider tapering under medical supervision rather than stopping abruptly. Third, if you're already suffering from persistent symptoms post-finasteride, know that you're not crazy and you're not alone. The Post-Finasteride Syndrome Foundation maintains a registry of researchers actually studying this. There are emerging investigations into neurosteroid replacement, androgen receptor modulation, and epigenetic interventions. Fourth, explore alternative approaches to hair loss that don't involve systemic 5-alpha reductase inhibition. Topical solutions that stay local. Low-level laser therapy, PRP treatments, microneedling with growth factors. None of them are as effective as finasteride at stopping hair loss, that's the honest truth, but none of them risk rewiring your brain chemistry either. Your hair matters, but your brain matters more. Your ability to feel joy matters more. Your relationships, your career, your quality of life, all of it outweighs a hairline. ACT5, the bigger picture. Here's the uncomfortable question. Why is this information so hard to find? Finasteride is a multi-billion-dollar molecule, first approved for prostate issues, then repurposed for hair loss, now prescribed to millions worldwide through streamlined telehealth platforms that profit from recurring subscriptions. The financial incentive is to minimize concerns, not amplify them. Meanwhile, young men are told that caring about their hair is vanity. So when the treatment backfires, they're ashamed to speak up. They're told their symptoms are psychological. So they doubt their own experience. They're isolated, desperate, and searching Reddit forums at 3 a.m. because their doctors won't believe them. This is what happens when profit drives medicine faster than safety science can keep up. This is what happens when we treat complex biological systems like simple switches to flip. You deserve to know what you're putting in your body. You deserve informed consent that actually informs. You deserve doctors who stay current on the research. Even when that research threatens profitable prescriptions, the science is out there. They just don't want you finding it. That's why we're here. This is the Real Bio Protocol.